Awesome. All right. Okay, you guys. I apologize. I apologize. I am so sorry. Today I've had the worst technical difficulties ever. So I've just decided to, to go straight on Zoom, and I am so late, and I apologize. So anyway, we are here, and as you know, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is October, and so most of the time, I thought that we always think that women are the ones that are abused, and we rarely ever talk about men being abused. And I say abused because it's not always violence. Because abuse is when we say words. When we insult someone. It could be emotional abuse or whatever. So anyway, so I thought it would be nice for us to hear a male perspective. What they call abuse. Sometimes, as women, we probably do not respect them, and it turns out to be abuse. So anyway, I have the best panel ever, as always. And to also have this panel, I thought it would be nice to be to be diverse. And so I have David Dambre. He is from Togo. And then I have Chef Jadi from Kenya. And then I have Mr. Kenneth Cobb from America. And we want to look at the African way of doing things and the American way of doing things. So gentlemen, welcome to Echo FM.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the guys that are watching, can you guys hear me just fine?
Yeah, great. I hear you well.
I think so. Otherwise, they could have already told me. I see Maggie there, and she could have already told me that she can't hear me. So anyway, since we are here to learn, so let me start with you, Mr. Kenneth. What is it that women do to show disrespect to a man?
Wow. Well, I think it really depends upon the maturity of a man. That has a lot to do with it. And, most men, if they're very mature, they're not affected by a lot of things that some younger guys, or not even younger, older, but less purpose gentlemen. I think one of the most atrocious things that a woman can do regarding a man is to down him in front of someone else. Or even behind his back, just the fact that they know that there's been negative talk about him. And if, that is one of the most revealing things, especially if you have a relationship where you truly care for that person, to know that that person has a negative connotation that they're speaking behind your back, and they can't bring it to you. Now, I will say this. A man will build up enough strength that he can get to the point that that does not hurt him after a period of time. He walks away just like a woman would in that same respect. You walk away, you put distance there, and the words are not as harsh as they were when you were intimately involved with them.
Wow. Okay. David, what do you say to that?
First of all, let me take a very few seconds to commend you and what you do. Is something that I think in the African setting, we don't often get something like this, and you have taken it upon yourself to bring it to reality so that we can all share ideas and see how we can come out of this mess. I call it a mess because it's something that is going to be with us forever and ever, right? And so, yes. Boy, this is relative, right? So when you say what can a woman do that is going to be disrespectful to a man, is very relative. A woman can do something to me that I don't even see. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't care about it. but someone else might feel like, oh no, that this is kind of crazy. You can't tell me as a husband or as a boyfriend, you cannot tell me that way. But mostly what a woman can really do to a man that is going to be like outrageous, speaking behind him, just like Kenneth just said, talking evil way or trying to take control. In a way, maybe, as we discussed, we can go a long way and now we explain what I mean by taking control. Yeah. But yes, if a woman wants to take control, if a woman wants to basically downplay, the kind of leadership, in the house, so that is going to cause men, because we're men. Look, we're talking raw. And I want to give a man's perspective. Yes. It's not what I do, but that is what a man's perspective, that's what it is. We don't want to be talked down. We don't want to be looked down upon. We don't want, our problems or stories get out of the house. And if you take it outside, then it's going to create a very hostile environment for both of us.
Okay. Yeah, home business is home business.
Yes.
Njadi, let's hear your perspective. What do women do that shows disrespect to a man?
Thank you so very much. Also, let me start by thanking everyone on the panel, and especially Monicah for inviting us and personally inviting me. This is a progressive panel to explore real issues that face us. So my comment, I will take back. I'll take a more anthropological look at the issue. And when you first invited me about, maybe say one thing before I give you my answer. When you invited me to the panel, I speak on panels from time to time, so nothing particularly new about being on a panel, but I haven't spoken at a panel that addressing this specific issue. So you caused me to think about something I haven't thought serious enough to speak about it publicly. I think about issues to a degree, but if you're talking about it, then you think about it more deeply. So it occurred to me, because most of my work is around issues of food and issues of justice. And I realized that all violence is domestic. All types of violence is domestic. And domestic is probably the foundation of all violences, because if you're violent, you have to have learned it somewhere.
You paused. Jadi, you paused. Your mic is on pause. Can you, mute, sorry. Can you, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes, yeah. So I said, I realized that all violence is domestic, because any violence that's exhibited anywhere is first learned, or most likely learned, from the home, which is where you're raised. And the way you learn that violence probably came about is based on the relationship between the two people who form a home, which is the most basic unit of any culture or any government. So, having stated that, let's talk about, let me just point to very, very briefly about the two bases of violence in a home. One is cultural. Violence is culturally based. There are certain things you say to a people or that would happen in a particular culture that is not considered violence. Then you go to another culture, then if you do those things, you can be actually persecuted for it. So there are things that are permissible in certain cultures, but are not permissible in certain cultures. So those are, then the second point is about gender balance in a family. The family in any unit, any system of government, which a family is a system of government. It has to have finances, it has to have division of roles. It has to have all kinds of things. So there is a balance that has to be negotiated between the sexes. So that's the foundation of my answer. My answer, therefore, to feedback, what makes a man mad is based on the culture they come from. If you come from a different culture, then that will primarily determine things that will make a man mad as well as the woman mad, because the culture dictates the role that the family or the two sexes agree upon. That a man is supposed to do this, a woman is supposed to do this. Now, how you do that, what you don't do, to the degree that you do it or don't do it, and how you do it can be now at the cause of tension between the family. Let me finally finish by saying that as an anthropologist, I have seen that people can live in all kinds of arrangements, and whatever arrangement people agree, that's for them. They can live that way. They decide. For example, we are coming from Africa, as well as even here in the US, as well in the Middle East. I've seen polygamous families, and people have lived in polygamous family, and they work. So when the Europeans came to Africa and say, "Oh yeah, that's all you can use," or because of religious dictates that you should not be polygamous, then people start being polygamous. Those relationships haven't worked. So I've seen a polygamous relationship that didn't work. Then I've seen monogamous relationship that didn't work. So being polygamous or being monogamous doesn't guarantee that relationship work. So I've seen relationships whereby the children, like in West Africa, where the children are raised by the uncles, not by their fathers. So the father in a particular family raises the children of the sisters, and that worked. I've seen the relationship in Nepal where all the brothers marry one wife, and that worked to the degree that it works for them. It's still going on, and so on and so on. So I think we need to be very specific about the source of the tension, and how much, in conclusion, the issues that we are dealing with are intrinsic and as opposed to extrinsic. If we are living in the US and you are applying American standards in our relationship, then that can be a cause of tension as a man or a woman, and vice versa. So if the relationship or in a family is dictated by things that we ourselves cannot negotiate because they're dictated by other people, then you can have a big cause of tension in a family, and that will dictate the things that make a man mad, the things that make a woman mad, things that a woman expects, things that a man expects. A woman, for example, expects a man to give him roses. And that might not be my culture.
We're going to get to chores in just a little bit. So actually, that was my next question. So we just wanted to know, just some of the things that women do to make men mad. But getting to the chores, because you kind of touched on it, David, there are some things that in African culture are thought not to be for men. For example, we believe that a man does not come to the kitchen, the woman is supposed to cook for him, serve him, things like that. But then when we come to America, it changes because we have different schedules. We are both working. I mean, if it was in Africa, Kenneth, we have house help. And here we don't have house help. Labor is very expensive in America. And so when we come to America, it's almost division of labor because we are both working, we are both busy, right? And then when our parents come here and they see, maybe a man that's coming to the kitchen, they start saying, okay, that man has been handpicked, So So, David, can you talk about that? I mean, the people that have come to America, are we confused about culture? Because I will get to it later. To some extent, we want our man to be manly and be, have the macho, the African man. But at the same time, we want them to kind of be Americanized. You know what I mean? So talk a little bit about those.
Okay. So there's something called woke culture. So it's kind of like a woke culture. So it means from the kind of culture that our brother, what is his name again? The Kenyan brother who just spoke.
Kabui.
Okay,
Kabui.
Kabui. Call him Kabui.
Oh, Kabui, yeah. So you see what he really laid the foundation about culture, and I want to pounce on that because culture is everything. So we have seen countless times people, watch videos, Western videos and African movies and stuff like that. I was watching a certain movie, a Nigerian movie called The Second Wife. And in The Second Wife, the movie is really telling the story of two tales, right? One family that the man is in charge, with education, a better job and all that. And the other part of the family, a woman who is leading, a doctor, having all these things, and the husband doesn't have that much, to actually contribute. But when we come from Africa, we tend to overlearn. By overlearning, we create a certain friction between the two people in the house. You don't just get up one day and change the culture just like this. Or you just don't get up one day and start brushing your teeth, strongly, because you're going to see blood, right? So you do it step by step, step by step, until you kind of, get everything together. Then you can explore the other options that we have. But when you come to Africa, my sisters, African sisters, please, look, do not overcopy. It is true that when you come to America, we've seen, men go to kitchen and then they will cook and even bring the food to the table. That is the American culture. That is the Western culture.
What's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But that's why I said you don't get up and then start brushing your teeth so strongly, because it's going to be blood, right? So you kind of study the environment first, and then introduce some small steps in that relationship, and then let the husband understand that, look, yes, we are from a culturally focused family or imbued family, but we're here. I hope you can help me do this. Don't say, hey, if I do this, then you have to do this. If I do this, you have to do that, because I'm doing this, because I'm doing that. The language with which you speak would determine what is going to be a reaction from the man, right? So there's always a way of, telling somebody to do something without necessarily not, creating a scene. Talk to the person in a way that that person is going to feel like, oh, well, she really needs help. She doesn't, she's not commanding me, or she's not, trying to tell me, hey, if I do this, you have to do that. If I do this, you have to do that. So but when I feel like that, I am going to try to defend myself, and I'm going to use culture. Hey, we're from Africa, so don't tell me that, So we need to be able to understand the two cultures, the two, sides of it. Tell me, and I'll work with you very peacefully. I will work with you. But if you tell me, oh, if I do this, you have to do this. If I do this, you have to do that. But when it comes to a certain thing, you're telling me, but you're the man. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do this. Hello, you can't get everything. So you have to work with what you have. And so, and understanding that we're all from a culturally imbued family. And so we cannot stay away from it.
Okay, so Ken, I'm going to come back to you, because I want the African brothers to speak first. Then we hear the American perspective. So Kabui, you talk about our chores. So when we come here, are we as women confused as to what you can do and what you cannot do? And as a men also resistant to, we are in America now, to also accepting that this is a different culture and I need to help?
That's a very good question. So I think what I would say is how well we adjust, or what my brother is talking about is the process of acculturation, okay, or adjusting to a new world that we were not aware of. Nobody knows enough about America, in my view, when they come to America. If you're coming from another culture, and like vice versa, I don't expect, unless you are, even if you are a cultural anthropologist, I don't expect you as an American to come and know about my culture, whether it's in Togo or is in Kenya, just simply by reading about it. So when you come here, it's a very, very different reality. So let's first start by there. That when people come here, they are coming to they are navigating unknown waters. That's number one. Number two, how well we'll do that will be determined by how united we are in dealing with it. It's not. I agree with a general idea that hey, you can't tell me to do this. I can't tell me to do that. I can tell you, but it's not only the women who are adjusting. All of us are in the game together. The women didn't know America. It's not only the man that's not adjusting. The woman is adjusting as well. But how well we adjust together to the new world will be determined by how united we are in this cause. But if I'm pulling my side, no single divided house can ever stand. Once the house is divided and you say, hey man, you're the one, as a man, I'm having more hard time adjusting. Or the woman, you're doing it. If we divide it, it's a game, we might as well not even talk about it. The people who are going to survive is, how do we best navigate this? Can you support me in this? And what can I support you in? We should continuously, in a united way, figure out how we are going to survive, not as a man, not as a woman, not how a woman is going to get off better, or how the man is going to get off better, but how are we going to get better? That's what I would say to answer your question.
Okay.
I don't know whether I answered your question.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Ken, in America, men are okay, doing chores that, my African brothers are saying that, wait a minute, you just came to the US. That doesn't mean that you copy everything that you see in America. So you tell us how it is done in America.
Well, I think these brothers did a really wonderful job sharing the facets of their culture. And one thing I do want to take a caveat from and say this is that, in America, there are normally different parallels. You have your conservative people, you have your liberals, and then you have those that, are just out there independent. And so, for instance, I have a nephew, and I say, Daniel, do you realize you just turned around in front of the police in front of my office? And he says, well, yeah, but I know that they're not going to stop me because you work on the police force with all of them. And I'm like, really? So you take that chance. And that's what you have to do. I'm reminded of Will Smith in the movie Hitch, which, ladies, is one of my most favorite movies. I can watch it whether it just came on or if it's an hour into it or 3 hours into it, because Will talks about making sure that you're able to fly, and you have to take a leap of faith. And so here in America, we have just what David spoke of, something he said that caught me. He says, in certain cultures, things are real, they're taught. So you're taught a certain way. That's how you understand your culture. And then you live by the things that you're taught. Here, we seem to think that success in a relationship is something that is learned. You take bits and pieces, just like my brother talked about. You take bits and pieces of things, find out if they work, implement them into your relationship. And if they don't work with you and your partner, you tweak it, you phase it out if it doesn't work, or you find the proper way to implement it so that both of you actually love it. One of the best ways for me was seeing my parents. I saw my dad come home and just give his whole entire check to my mom. And even as a kid, I was dumbfounded because I knew he was making tons of money, but he trusted my mom and she would ask him, Glenn, what do you want out of the check? And he said, oh, just give me enough to go back and forth to work and get something to eat. Now, ironically, because that's what I saw, I applied it to my own relationship. You know, I wanted to see if I could trust a woman to handle my bank account or put hours, whatever, vice versa. And, you know, I gave the opportunity and she did everything I could have expected from it. But the one thing is we learned that you can only love as much as you can love. Okay. And that's the key statistic to it, whether it be a cultural difference, whether it be a hemispherical difference. People can only love the best way they know how, which means, David, when you say you had to learn it in your culture, you know, and then the other people who not only learn it, but decipher to say, well, I want to expand upon that. I want to see if some of these other things that I've seen can be implemented into my relationship and if they work. So for us as Americans, and I obviously cannot speak for everyone, but for the majority of the real men, there are some men in 50-year-old skin today who are not men, they're boys. And I often say to my business partner, you know, I have a life mission, Monica, and I think I sent it to you. And it talks about some of the phases in my life and my mission on what it is that I want to do, how I want to be a role model for my nieces and my nephews. But one of the things that I told my business partner, Jeff, who's a petrochemical engineer, one of the largest companies in the world, I said, I want to know what it feels like with these young kids to sit at home for a day and let a woman take care of me. I just want to see what that feels like. He says, nah, bro, you don't want to know what that feels like. I'm like, no, I think I do. But then in reality, when I thought about who I am, I was like, nah, I don't even want to know what that feels like. Because there are some people who literally will sit in the car while their girls get out and go put gasoline in them. Yeah. I consulted for a large automotive parts company. And I walked out to take a look at a car one day, Monica, and I saw that this guy was sitting in the front seat. And I said, well, what's wrong with your husband? Is he, he's got a bad leg or something? She's like, no, he just didn't want to get out. I said, really? That was a shock to me. That a man would sit in the car while his girl got out and went into the automotive parts store. So again, it's not just hemispherically, it's not just culture, is really what people accept from their partners. And, you know, what standards, you know, one of the book, I love a book called The 5 Love Languages. And for all of my friends that are men, for the last 2 Christmases, I've given them the book and I just tell them, hey, look, I've never asked you guys for anything, but I'm asking you to do something. If you're in a relationship, I want you to read this book alone. And then I want you to go and read a chapter a week with your girl and y'all discuss it. Because it talks about the love languages of what a person really wants to, what makes them tick, you know, and those things that turn them off, you know, the spirit of giving or the spirit of taking, whatever the case may be. So here in the United States, my son and I, we were single, Monica, and he asked me one day, he said, Dad, I want an easy bake oven for Christmas. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, I want an easy bake oven. Pink had become his favorite color. And I said, well, what about a red, you know, something like my Ducati motorcycle or my bass boat or my truck, or green like your grandpa's truck? And he says, well, Dad, why not? I didn't know what to tell him. I said, well, cooking is for girls. He pointed up and he said, well, Dad, look at all of that cookware you have hanging up here. And you just bought some Calphalon the other day. He said, does that make you a girl? I said, no. So I ended up getting him his easy bake oven with a chef outfit and hat. And so again, you're taking a different step in providing for the ones that you love, the things that reaches them. And that changes culture sometimes. It changes the reality of it.
Okay, so let me add to that. That way, you know, we can, you know, start another topic or whatever. You see, the problem that African men have when we come to America is we try to play the African picture or the African game, but then we want the other side of it. we don't, we want our ladies to act like Africans, but then we want things to be done in American way. So we fighting two things at the same time, and which is really, really wrong, because it's going to cause a whole lot of friction again. Because when I came to America, that was years ago. I can't tell what year it was. I was made to actually go to CNA school, right? This is the different cultures here. So I went to,
for those who don't know.
Yeah. So I went to CNA school, and I was like, during those classes, I was okay. But then when it came to the practical part of it, I was so shocked, and I had to give up. Why? I had 9 patients. Out of the 9 patients, there were 5 female or women that I have to go in there, take care of them. The very first room that I went was a woman. As soon as I went in there and I saw the woman, I ran back. I said, whoa. So I went and told my nurse supervisor that, hey, there is a woman in this office here. And she was like, and so what? I said, no, I'm a male, so I can't take care of her. They say, you're about to get fired, or you're about to go to prison for that. So you see, it was a culture shock. I wasn't expecting that, that a man has to take care of a woman, and stuff like that. But then with time, I learned how to adapt. Now I don't care what it is. I can take care of my wife, or even I can take care of any woman without thinking about whether, it's a culture or not. So when we come to America, it's a slow process that we need to adapt. Like my brother Kabu said, the adaptation part is very, very important. Don't rush it. Yes, we don't rush. Men, we shouldn't rush. Women, we shouldn't rush. We should work it progressively, step by step. If you really want to have the most beautiful, home or family, do not listen to other people, to how people are dealing with their families. Work with your family, and then deal with how your family, you want to build your own family. Because if you listen to how other people are dealing, again, the movie that I watched, the Second Wife, don't listen to people. Listen to your family. How you're going to build your own family, it is completely different from what other people are going to do with their families. So please, men, we don't hate you guys, or we don't say we're not going to help you, but deal with us in a way that we can understand you, and you can understand you, or we can understand each other. That way things will be okay. Other than that, question mark.
Okay, so let's get into something else. Okay, so finances is one of the major reasons, for breakups, or actually it starts, the fight in the home. So again, back to African culture, personally, I come from a family where my mother she never went to any job in her life. My dad went to work. We it was the 7 of us. It was not for my mom to know how school fees is going to be paid, who's going to pay it, when it's going to be paid. Nothing like that, right? Her job was to maintain the home, take care of the children, just be a homemaker. If she chose to do side businesses, that was her, she chose to do that. She wasn't told to do that so she can contribute. My dad pretty much did everything. That's my family. And I think we've also grown up to where we know that daddy provides, right? And then in this generation, we always say culture is evolving. So in this generation, we see, and Mr. Cobb, Kenneth, you're going to forgive me for this, but my culture shock when I came to America is to see a 30-year-old man that lives with his mother, and probably has a job. The only thing he owns is a cell phone, and so some of our African brothers are also getting involved in that culture, or they're accepting it, or, you guys will help me navigate this. But we've gotten to where, ladies are now going to school, so they have better jobs, they have better paying jobs, and maybe their spouses or their husbands, their significant others are making less money, and then it becomes a problem. So, David, can you talk about why is it that, number one, when a woman is making more money, it kind of bruises a man's ego? Why is that? Uh, can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself.
Sorry. I think it depends. Again, it depends. I've seen some men who are so bruised because their women make more money than them. Mm-hmm. And then when you ask them why, this is what they say. Well, she sees herself now as the boss in the house. Mm-hmm. She controls it. She tells me to go wash her undies. She tells me to go cook. I'm going out. By the time I come back, I want food to be on the table, ready for me. So that is one part of it that get men ticked off, right? Because we're still going to be men. We can support, but when you really have that kind of mentality that, oh, now I have money, so I'm going to tell you what to do and what not to do, it is very unbearable from a culturally, embedded or imbued person like me, right? But that does not give the man a chance to abuse your wife because she's telling you what to do. If you don't like it, you better tell that person, wait, hey, look, I understand that you make more money than I do. If you love me, love me. If you don't love me, tell me, and I'm going to pack my stuff and I'm going to leave. There's always life somewhere, right? So instead of you being in that environment and trying to prove yourself that you're the man, now you're going to have to fight your way through to become that head of state or the head of the house. That is going to cause another issue. So I think men are not scared of women providing, but the things that women say behind them or say in front of them, that causes that thing. And so I hope women can take heart and say, look, yes, it is true that I provide, but the Bible says, who is the head of the house, regardless of what it is. I am the man. When it comes to physicality, I will protect you. Nobody is going to touch you. I'm going to protect you with my life, okay? So I am still the head, okay? So if your car breaks down, nobody's going to come there. I will be the one coming there to help you out. So look at from that perspective. Now, if I'm the man who has the money, I do all that for you. I buy you whatever. If your car breaks down, I come there and to help you out, right? So you have to look at it from that perspective. So don't make it look like, oh, Lord, I'm making more money than my husband, so now he's useless. He's no longer the man. Even sex, you're not going to give it to him because you feel like he is less of a human, right? And then when a man feels like a less of a human, you know what causes that? You know what is going to become of that person? The beast is going to come out of him, right? So we need to be very cautious in how we deal with some stuff like that. If you have money, be careful. I'm not saying that lay down and let him walk on you. I don't say that. I'm never going to say that. But understand the boundary. It will work perfectly.
Okay. So, Kabui, can you tell us why now some men are just comfortable with a woman being the provider? And like David is saying, sometimes, yes, we're going to have women that are the providers, but isn't it better when this man is also thinking, that I'm the man of the house, let me go out there and fend for my family? I mean,
wow, that's interesting point. Let me add, thank you for the question. You see, one of the complexities in the relationships among Africans is because every culture reflects the power dynamics of the larger culture, like for the country, for example. So if you're living in Kenya, and there are all these other dynamics that go into making a relationship between a man and a woman that are not immediately visible or obvious. For example, if you're living in a culture whereby the cost of labor is low, then you can hire a house help, you can hire somebody to cut your yard and keep your flowers and all that. So, those are some of the things that I noticed that we don't take a lot into account. That's number one. Second point is that culturally, women are reared to live. Women are never at home. You know, you're born in, at least in our, most of our cultures, that you stay in that house until you're married. And then when you marry, you know, I remember my grandmother when I was growing up, my grandma would constantly say, I'm not going to die here. I'm going to go back to my house. If my grandfather will do something, will say something that was not nice, she said, oh, I know I'm going to leave. One day I'll leave. So in one sense, in that sense, women are socially prepared to adjust. So when women come to America, they adjust very quickly. Like David said,
no, but,
you know.
But what about finances, though? Talk about
finances. So I bring to that. So that so adjustment. Then finances. Finances. The culture reflects, as I say. So I was saying that a relationship will reflect the larger social dynamics we're living under. In the U.S., we've seen a lot of problems with men, especially men of African descent, Black men, being or dealing with systemic racism on a different level than women are. So because of that, you find a lot of men will be unable to acquire employment because of the larger systemic racism that exists. So that will just naturally force men as well as women to be able to deal with men or to adjust to men who don't make nearly as much money as they do. If so many women are men, for example, are incarcerated, that reduces the number of men that are available to people of African descent in this country.
No, but I'm talking about the men that are not incarcerated. You know, those like in a family unit where a woman is making more money, why does the man lose respect? That's what I'm talking about.
Or lose respect? Yes. Okay. So now, these things are concerned maybe in a far-fetched way, but they are connected because if a man is already living in an environment where he's not comfortable, right, then the woman obviously is not conscious of the issues that I mentioned, and is not conscious of the issues that men are dealing with, or how a man feels like to be living in an environment where he doesn't have a lot of options, or a lot of some options are, or they don't have what I would call an equal, open, a fair, what do they call, equal playing field. The playing field is not equal for them. Then men come already in a relationship feeling some challenge. They come in a relationship feel challenge. So if the woman exacerbates those feelings and say, hey, look, you are lesser of a man because you are not able to get to earn enough money as I'm able to earn, then that causes the man to it rubs an open wound already. So a wound is already existing. That's what I would think.
Okay.
Make sense?
All right. So let's go to the American culture. Are some men, because it's not all.
Can I add something quickly before you go there?
Go to American culture. Okay.
Let me add something here. You see, because you really made a point on why some men don't want to go out there and look for jobs, right? Mm-hmm. That part, I am going to really pounce on it, because a man who does not get his butt off the couch and go look for a job should not even be in a relationship in the first place.
Thank you.
because it should not be in a relationship in the first place. Now, the thing is, if you're dating somebody who does not speak with you about his visions and about both of your visions, that man is not a marriage material. And then you should see those signals in the first place before getting in and later on trying to ask him to go to work. Because you should have picked up these signs, right? Because there's no way a man will say, well, I'm going to lay on my couch as long as my wife. Come on, what kind of man are you going to be? So, and then when the woman commands you to go wash her undies, her pants, and you want to play a man, I don't buy that idea. That is not going to work, and that's not how.
And that's exactly what I was talking about, because you know what I mean. It's natural for women to expect that the man is going to be a provider, and I think Kenny will agree with me. Men are usually providers, but when it's okay when a man is trying, but when he's absolutely not trying and he also does not want to contribute in the houses in doing chores, then what is a woman to do? So Ken, let's go to your culture and tell us, what is the expectation of a man? Is a man supposed to be the provider?
Well, I mean, here in America, men have always played that role as being a provider. It's changing, and it's changing drastically because there are a lot of women who make more money than men do. You often see men with the babies during the day while the wife is at work, and I'm often complimentary of them. If I see them at Walmart and they've got their babies, I acknowledge them and express to them how excited I am to see them fulfilling that role. And the reason I do that is just in the event that it may be something that's difficult for them, they've now been esteemed with something that now hopefully make them feel better about it. And that's the role that a lot of American men play here in the United States. I made a joke with my dad one day. I called him a cream puff. He's a 77-year-old man, and my mom passed, and so he's got a new girl in his life. And when I walk in the house and I say something to him on the phone, he's doing me like this. No. I'm like, Dad, you can't chew bubble gum and talk to your son at the same time. And so I tell him, you're a cream puff. You had all the cream squeezed out of you. But really, it's a beautiful thing to see, even at his age, that he's accepting a different role. So those women that make more money in America than men do, there's still a lot of men in America who have problems with that. And it goes back to what David said, both of the brothers. They're just not the men that they need to be. Men have to be able to adapt, just like a woman has to be able to adapt. If you're in that relationship and you discussed it and worked it out and talked with that spouse, you should be able to support her. And I'll just tell you from an experience, I had a CEO that I was friends with, and she liked me, I liked her, but I knew that she was not going to be my wife. And one day she asked me, well, if I were not a CEO and I was just a school teacher, would it be different? And I said, well, I don't want you ever to minimize the fact that you know my portfolio. I said, I dated CEOs prior to you, and it worked out well because I'm not bothered by the money. I know the man that I am, and they know the man that I am.
Yeah.
And in another relationship, I dated a young lady who had a national franchise. And during that time, she said, well, babe, I listened to her when we first met. And ladies, I want you to hear this. I listened to her when we first met. I heard her tell me about a guy who always asked money of her. And that bothered her. 3 years into the relationship, she says, why won't you ever allow me to do anything for you? And I'm like, what are you talking about, sweetheart? And she said, well, you never allow me to do anything. You're always on top of everything, and you won't let me do anything for you. And I said, well, I didn't realize that. I just knew that I heard 3 years ago you had a guy who was always taken from you. And while I was listening and I heard you, I promised myself that I was not going to be that individual. And now that I know it bothers you, now that I know it hurts you, I'm going to take small incremental steps to try to fix that going forward. And there were times that I would simply ask her, babe, if you're coming this way, bring my workout bags. And she'd be so excited. Because otherwise I would have driven all the way back home and came in. So I think what you have to do is be mature in a relationship. You know, I see people in Beverly Hills all the time. You know, some friends ask me, why is it that guys are so bothered by women making more money? I said, because they're not a man. They are not a full, mature, understanding man. And I would not have that problem at all. I simply support her in every aspect that I could. I'd be on the red carpet, you know, letting people know. And what they would be talking about is how much they love each other.
Right.
Because it would be evident. It would be an example for the entire world to see. And that's what we have to do, is just understand that we communicate to the utmost so that we understand the role that one is being asked to play or not.
Yeah.
And be supportive of your spouse. You know, go beyond the culture. Go into the reality. And the reality is, I'm going to make sure that every day she knows she's loved. I mentioned to someone the other day that I want to wake up and I want to kiss her on the eyelid every morning because I want to see her eye open up and know that she's alive. So finances has nothing to do with that. It's the ability, for me, it's the ability to love me back. And if you can love me back, I'll give you more things than you've ever anticipated. And a lot of men are like that here in America as well. I don't for one moment think that I'm not a man's man, because I'm often told that I'm a man's man. But when it comes to my wife, I tell my friends, hey guys, I'm going home for lunch. Where are you going home for lunch for? We got this. I said, yeah, but I just want to go hold my wife. I want to go kiss her on the jaw. You know, I want to go hold my girl, which unfortunately, you know, I don't think there are a lot of women out there that want that.
Okay. So I want to ask you guys, because I need us to move on to something else. We have a few things to talk about. So just give me a really short answer on this one. Okay, so when you're in a relation, when a woman is in a relationship with a man that doesn't want to go to work, you know, is just, you know, a couch potato, or like he's not motivated, you know, I mean, it's okay. And I understand, Ken, where you're coming from. It is okay for us to make more money. That's not the problem, but it's the problem is when you have this man that doesn't want to do anything, that doesn't want to contribute financially to our, you know, to our marriage, you know, whatever. So when you have this man that doesn't want to go to work, just tell me, just very shortly, is it okay to walk away from that relationship, David?
Okay. The very short answer will be this, okay? At the beginning, when you started dating that person, did you see those signs? If
Maybe,
you saw,
let's say, even if the signs were not there, you're now married. So, you know, and he does not want to do anything. So the woman is the one that's doing everything. Is it okay to just say, you know what, I can't do this. You're not my fourth or fifth child. I'm going to walk away.
Right. No, it's totally 100% okay to walk away. Now, the process of walking away is what actually create the man to feel like, oh no, the one who offers me my daily bread is about to go away. So I'm gonna get defensive. I'm gonna protect my bread, right? So then they become very furious and they try to squeeze you, you know, for you to accept them for who they are and for what they are. And so it's okay to walk out, but how can they walk out? I think maybe that's where we're going to look at, because these people, those potato, you know, couch potatoes, they tend to be very, very aggressive, and they don't want to allow you to go. And so I don't know, but I don't know how you can.
The
you know,
short
you can
answer is it's okay to walk away.
It's okay to walk out, so, and don't look back.
Okay, Kabui, just give me a very short answer. If this man does not want to go to work, you know, does not want to contribute, is it okay to just walk away? Because are you going to be feeding a grown man?
I'm hesitant to give a good short answer because of this. But I'll say this for a short answer. It's okay to walk away from any relationship that you cannot work towards making functional. And if walking away gives you more benefit than it gives you more losses. I've seen people walk away from families, and because again, this is just a general, we don't have all the details of it. If you have kids and somebody's taking care of the children. Okay, they're not earning money. They are what? Maybe they are teaching the children. They are running the errands. They are doing the other thing. But if there's no children, then and all you're doing is you have a relationship and you're feeding a man, and is a loss for you. It's not a functional relationship. Then it's not a relationship to be. You're not walking away from anything because you don't have a relationship.
Right? Yeah. How do you feel about a woman just walking away, Ken, from a man that doesn't want to do anything?
You know, Monica, I don't even see it as walking away. What I see it as you're walking into a new dimension. And that dimension is you were just freed from something that was holding you back, and something that was systemically not good for you and your partner. I have a 31-year-old nephew, and I've just spent about $50,000 on my farm working and renovating it and revising it. And he'll tell me, text message me in the morning, "Uncle, we're going to the farm?" And I'm like, "Yeah. All right, I'll see you in a short bit." He won't show up. So I took his name out of my phone as Daniel, and I changed it as "not a man yet." And so when he started calling me, I said, "Is this not a man yet?" And he's like, "Oh, this is Daniel." I said, "No, this is not a man yet." And I had to tell him why, you know? And as David said, you should be able to see those signs. There's just no way that you're not going to see someone who has those signs. I don't own, and I'm not knocking guys that do, but I don't own any video games. I'm the CEO of 2 companies and a partner in a third. I have time for work, you know? That's what I have time for. If I were to stand up right now, you see me in my coveralls, because when I get off of this, I'm going to my farm and I'm going to go work on the farm. So it is okay to walk away, but make sure that if you do, ladies, I hope that you hear me, make sure that you put as much as you can put into it so that when you walk away, you have no hard feelings about walking away. You know that you've done everything that you can and you conveyed it to that gentleman. I won't call him a man, but he's a gentleman. You've conveyed it to him, and then you move on.
Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about insecurities. What makes a man, not all men, what makes some men feel so insecure and feel the need to control a woman, to where if he knows she gets off work at 4 o'clock and it takes her 30 minutes to get home, it is now 4:35 and she is not in the house, that man is already calling, "Where are you?" What happened? So what causes a man to have insecurity? And I'm going to go with you, Kabui. Can you tell us what causes a man to have insecurities?
A man is insecure about a relationship that's not working. That's a relationship that's not working. I think the one thing that I has kind of come up is about this idea we have in America about relying on ourselves. That's number one. So we do what's right for our family, do what's right for our wife, which is great. But when you don't have socialization of men, that's number one. When you don't have brotherhood, where men don't have other men, reliable men that they interact with, they deal with, they socialize with, they invest together with, they're growing with. A man cannot grow in an island. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. However you want to look at it, a man or a woman or anybody can, I'm speaking about men, not to say women don't need to be that way, but specifically because we're talking about men. A man cannot be healthy just by being with his wife all the time. You have to have a relationship with other people. Now you have a man who doesn't have any other man. Okay, they become insecure because if you lose your wife, then you don't have anybody else, or so those are kind of things. So if you don't, a healthy man is a man not only that's loved by his wife, but is loved by other men, that is having a healthy relationship with other men, a healthy relationship with his kids and his work and all his finances, all that kind of stuff. So a healthy man is a whole man. It's not just a person who goes to work or just a person who loves his wife, but he's a whole man. A person who is not a whole man is an insecure person, because then the only thing they can rely on is probably the wife. And the person who they can probably express all the frustration with, we tend to express our frustration with the people we are most closest with. So if we are violent, we're going to be most violent. The people who are going to get the brunt of our violence are people who are closest to us. And the people who are frustrated, they are going to express their frustrations to the people who are either weak or people who are close to us. So that's why I mean it's likely to be insecure.
Can you talk about insecurity? Why would a man be insecure?
I'm sorry, was that for me, Monica?
Yes, sir. Why would a man be insecure?
I think my brother just hit it on the nail. I mean, he talked about the fact that it's your surrounding individuals, the people that are around you. I would caution women before you get into that relationship with a gentleman, who has the physique or the eyes or the short hair or the long hair. You better look beyond that. And you better look to find out if he has a staff of guys around him that will tell him what is good and what is bad. And if he doesn't allow you to see those individuals, then you should be checking that to make sure that you want to move forward without that. Because I'm going to tell you, without having people that will pull your coattail and encourage you when you're doing well, a man can be deemed for unsuccess. And I'll give you an example. One of my very dear friends that I grew up with, I was best friends in his wedding. And he told me one day, he said, "Hey, why is Michael always talking about Daphne? I get so tired of hearing him talk about his wife." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Man, come on." I said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "That's his wife. That is the highest level of love that he should be able to show to the world and to others. And you're knocking that?" I said, "Well, let me tell you something, Phil. If you're not doing that same thing for Pam, then I'm going to check you right now. You need to be doing the same thing for your wife. There is nothing wrong with this man acknowledging his love for his wife. I'm single and I can't wait to do that, but you're married. You need to be working on that." And so ultimately, he told me one day that he was talking to some girl in Atlanta. And I said, "Well, when did you go to Atlanta?" "Well, I haven't." I said, "Well, how did you meet her?" "Well," I said, "No, then I want you to stop right there. Because this is what a man has got to have. He's got to have a force of guys that want to see him and her be successful." And I said, "Philip, you need to get out of whatever it is that you got going on in Atlanta and you need to focus on your wife. And next week, I'm going to call you at this time and we're going to talk about how far you move from that, because your kids are my God kids and I want to see you guys be successful." Well, thank God he listened, because now they have the budding, loving relationship that they once had before. And I'm not asking for any praise, but I think just like the brothers just said, you got to have a course of men in your small circle who will pull you to the side and check you. So women, you just got to be careful about moving forward with the guys who have the physique and stay in the mirror as long as you do and, don't have their own monies. So you got to be careful about that.
David.
Oh boy.
Where does insecurity come from?
You see, I'm not a philosopher and I don't want to give a philosophical answer. And I think Ken and Kabui, they both gave a very philosophical answer. I'm going to give you practical, right? So at the beginning of the relationship, if that man was acting like that, that was a flag that you needed to walk out of it. But now, if not, in the middle of it, then you begin to see those things. Now, you should sit yourself down. You, the lady, sit yourself down first. I say, okay,
call yourself.
What kind of conversation I have with my man? Do I tell my man, "Oh man, well, I'm not really satisfied with, with the sex that you give me," or maybe I'm not really, "Oh, I saw somebody and this is what they were saying and then this is what they were talking about," and all those things. And if that man is not giving you the kind of sex you're looking for, now he is going to get insecure, because he's thinking what you're telling me basically is that I'm not giving you enough, but you might go out there and do something else, right? Or if not sex and it's something else, maybe as a man, those guys who are womanizers, they tend to see everything as what they do. And so when they see that you're out for a long time, they're thinking about what they do when they're out there for a long time. and they are going to call you and check on you and say, hey, where you at? What do you do? Who are you with? Right? Because that person, that man is doing something bad. You need to understand that. And how can you detect whether that person is doing something? Now, it's okay to be caring, asking for, asking of your woman where, she is and stuff like that. That is different. But if it's something that is continuous, that is kind of like a very authoritative, then you should be looking out. That man is cheating on you. That man is doing something and thinking that you're doing the same thing. Okay? Because a caring man will always ask, hey, just let me know where you are or how long you're going to be there in case something is happening. He will come to your aid, or he will come to, to support you. But if not, then you should see that there's something wrong going on somewhere.
Okay, so let's address this. Women are emotional, and men are physical, right? And I don't know if I'm just biased, but to some extent, men have a really short attention span, right? So a woman, like I said, they want to express themselves. So they come home, they want to talk, right? And, a friend of mine tells me that, oh my God, women, they go to sleep talking, they wake up talking. That could be true. But see, the thing is, to satisfy a woman's emotional, to satisfy a woman's emotions, sometimes it's very simple. It could be even just listening, just cuddling, really simple things. So can you guys talk about, how do you satisfy a woman emotionally? And I'm just going to go with you, Ken.
Oh my, gave it to me first, huh?
Yes.
Well, I've been single for a very long time. And a lot of that is because of the industry that I'm in. I meet a lot of beautiful women, and I never go beyond business and pleasure. Absolutely, just do not do it. And there are many reasons for that. But I think what I've learned to do is I've learned to always see myself as, there's a thought that a woman wants to be taken to a place that she's never been to before. She wants to experience euphoria. And I start before it gets to the bedroom. I start by just simply being who I am. And because I'm a lover, these hands are made for loving. That's what they're made for. They're made for caressing. They're made for reassuring a woman. They're made for being a protector if I need to be. And so I was sitting in my office the other day, and I happened to be talking to a friend on the phone. She's just a friend. And I called her LBH. And the young lady who was sitting over said, "What is LBH?" And I said, "Well, it stands for a little bit of heaven." Because she's just like a little bit of heaven.
Oh, okay.
To me, she's just like a little bit of heaven here on earth. And she said, because I could hear the passion that you guys have for each other. Now, we're not dating. And she's moving on to some other things, but it's just the idea we get along very well. And I treat her with the same discord that I would for my potential wife, because I just adore her that much. But we know that we're not going to be an item. And so I think what you have to do is you have to be able to secure the love that you have for them out of the bedroom as well as in the bedroom. And that starts by wanting to be the best that you can be and give them the best that you can until you find out that jurisprudence scale starts to get more like this, because again, as I said earlier, some people can love the best way they know how, and that's not it. Right. If you need deeper love, then you better wait for somebody who can love you deeper and who can show you signs that they're going to love in a way that is beyond just the typical 40 percentile. You need someone who is going to be committed to you. And so I do it through constant affection, talking to them and telling them, "Hey guys, I'm going home to see my girl." Like, "What? You going home?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm gone. Y'all do what you want to. I'm going home and let my baby know I'm thinking about her." Throughout the day, I'm doing that. I'm calling her on the phone just to hear her voice. I miss those things, and I look forward to that, because what happens is you have about a 20-year cycle, a 15-year cycle, where you get into something, takes 5 years to get to know them, you date them for 5 years, you think about getting away from them, and before you know it, you've spent 15 years in a relationship that yielded nothing but an opportunity for you to grow out of it, you know? So I don't have that many life cycles left for that. And I want to use every day that I have left to love my baby to the ultimate. That when she thinks about me, I see her smile. Mm-hmm. And likewise, you know, if she comes home, I want to meet her at the door, and I'm not handpicked. Mm-hmm. But what I am is I'm a real man who wants to love his wife and who wants to show her my adoration. And I want the whole world to be able to see that when we're out. I want them to be able to see our love. So, and I look forward to that.
So, Kabui, how do African men express love to women, and how do they satisfy women emotional need?
That's a good question. I found it interesting to hear Ken speak, say that Ken wants the whole world to see that he has love for the person he loves. Mm-hmm. Well, culturally, Africans are not expressive of love. That's something that is frowned upon. And it's not just Africans, there are other cultures. The Greeks, we can take a look at the Greeks. In the Greeks, the men could not even bring their wives to the public, or even call their name. The Spartans could not marry, could not be seen going to visit their wives that they were legally married to. So cultures are different. So culturally, African, the basis of African relationship and the success of it is being able to take care of your family. If you take care of your family, you supply the needs of your family, and you don't have any issues, you know, you take care of the family. That is taken as a sign that you love your family. Why? Because you've done what you need to do for your family. And the kids are well fed, your wife is well fed, you have time for them, you know, you sit down. In my culture, you don't have to hold anyone. You don't have to, my dad didn't have to hug my mother. He didn't need to love, kiss her, or even tell her that she loves her. We knew my dad loved my mother. So whatever they did behind that, that's their business. But that's how the family setup was for me growing up, and that's the model. That is just a cultural difference, that, you know, women have maybe a need for being told. My mother never said, my dad doesn't love me. My dad never said, your mother doesn't love me. We saw people who just went around their business. They had a lot of good time. You know, they never say, oh, this time for us, or these are good time. There was good time all over. But I guess because of the kind of economic system we live, a capitalism, where time is very limited. So you're only with your wife for a very limited time. Then you want to make maximum use of this limited time you have. Maybe that's number one. And then there's just the culture, that's how you've been socialized. That you've been socialized by seeing people express love. So in my African sensibilities is making sure that everything is taken care of. And if my wife has need, we have open communication, say, hey, look, I need you to X, Y, and Z. Then they're right, because we have that kind of communication. But I can't speak that, I have to bring my wife flowers. For me, my wife is like my sister. You know, that's what I think. She's like, we had the best time. You know, I hope everybody had a perfect sister. You know, I had a perfect sister. We did all things together. She could tell me, I could cover her when she did things that she didn't want my parents to find out, you know, because she broke the pot, or she forgot to do this. I run there and I help her. I think, and that's what I look for. You know, I look for that level of comfort, that I don't have an insecurity. You know, I don't think that, you know, I have an insecurity that, that something is amiss. You know, and that's why I think insecurities come from, that you're not giving me this, and so on. I don't know whether I answer your question.
Yeah, okay. All right, so David, how do African men satisfy a woman's emotions?
We don't satisfy. My brother Kabui just, laid it out barely.
So
Really.
So you're saying African women are used to, they don't have any emotions, and they don't have any emotions that need to be satisfied.
Okay, so those who have traveled, out of the continent, now learn to have emotions. But those back home they don't even tend to even have it because they know they're not going to get it, right? So, but those who have traveled, across many cultures and stuff like that, yes, they have begun to understand that, hey, we didn't need some sort of emotions, right? Because when was the first time you see an African, back home, African man holding his wife in her hand and hugging or kissing? Even when it comes to sex, they just push them, they crucify them, and they do whatever they want to do, and they get out. Emotions, they don't touch them after having sex. They don't even hold them because women want to be held after sex, right? Once you have, you do whatever you want to do. Women want you to stay in bed and hold them and hug them. And when was the last time you see an African man doing that? We don't have the time to do that. It's not like we don't have the time. We do have all the time, but it is not part of, who we are, right? So, and then when we travel across, time zones and cultures, now we realize that, oh, wait a minute. So if you have to have sex with your partner, you're supposed to hold them a little bit, because even after the sex, they kind of get something out of it, whatever that is. I don't know. You still have to hold them. How am I supposed to do that? We men, when we get it done, we want to get out and we want to start walking. We don't have that time, to hold you in bed, right? And so, yes, emotional is like happiness. Nobody makes you happy. You make yourself happy to some extent. Now we can try to accommodate you a little bit, but we don't have that full edge of holding you, kissing you, say, oh baby, what's up? What's wrong with you? Is it okay? Can you come? White men do that. Trust me.
They do, David. Even African men do. Actually, it's not just African men in America. Actually, African men in Africa. I will tell you, in Kenya right now or nowadays, men send flowers to their girls. So, like we said earlier, culture is evolving. We're learning to be better. So just because, Kabui, your parents, that's how they treated one another. I know, like, parents, as they were walking, sometimes, their husband will pass and then you see the wife come, because they can't go together, but now we are in this generation where we want to hold hands, and there's nothing wrong with that, so I'm looking at Ken going like, so Ken, what are you thinking?
I have to say something back, man, when you finish. I have to say something back.
Yeah, Ken.
Me, I'm educated. These brothers just educated me even more. I'm listening to Brother Kabui, being a chef that he is, he knows that when he's cooking a certain piece of food, just by adding a little sprinkle of baking soda to the baking powder is going to cause a more extensive explosion and give you greater fullness. And that's what I want to be. That's what I strive to be when it comes to giving my woman what she needs. I want her to think about the fact that, damn, he's taken me to a level that I've never been to before. And you know what? I've just seen something that I've never seen before, but I know I want more of it. And my mom always taught me, never brag on yourself, but let it come from the mouths of others. Yeah. And I can assure you that even in my last relationship, a young lady says, well, one thing I know I'm going to miss your touch. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate it. But because what I strived to do was to make her dreams come true. If she dreamt about it and we went to bed, I tried doing that through the week prior, so that when we were intimate together, it was just like, she felt 8 hands of an octopus. She was catching on to a rocket. She's going to be going up in space somewhere, not knowing where I'm going, but I know I'm higher than I've ever been before. And so for me, I'm giving my best. For instance, one time a bed broke. And the young lady says, are we going to stop? I hope not. I said, well, the bed broke. Why stop? You know, if it's, it's just, if this is what you need, I'm giving it to you. So again, that's different from other cultures. I always think that even no matter what we do in the United States, if we have a culture, I'm gonna spice it up a little bit, and I might spice it up to the third degree, just simply so that she recognizes that this is where she wants to come back to, and this is where she wants to be at. Which is one reason why I'm probably single, is because I literally have had to run away from some people. Now, are you running from me? I'm like, yeah, I'm running from you because I'm not ready to go down that road yet. And if I give you what I think I'm going to give you, then I'm going to have some problems. And so I run, but I don't want to keep running. So, but anyway, these brothers have really helped me.
Just to point earlier that even in Kenya, people do that. They send flowers and everything. So I can see Caroline Bithi here. She says, I grew up in Kenya, and every Friday I observed my dad buy my mom flowers, and dad still buys mom flowers. Also, it's important to learn the love language of your partner.
That's so true.
Exactly.
That is so true. I mean,
let's do Kabui, because Kabui was going to say something before I come back to Jambre.
Yes. People can express love in all kinds of stuff. So, and I don't want to, by any chance, insinuate that African men are not romantic. People can be romantic in different ways, in way in which it fits them, because we are all, this is what I say about Africa. Africa is in a valley. On one side, we have all the African traditions. On the other side of the valley, you have new, more what you call pop culture or Western traditions, because Africa is moving towards that direction. There are some people who are in the valley. They are neither Westernized and they are not 100% African. My dad was African. My dad had 2 years of schooling. So, if you say flowers to my dad is like, okay, probably the only place he saw flowers maybe was a funeral. Or, that's not something that's big for him. If you gave my mother some flowers, she wouldn't care about flowers. What you doing in these plants? Give me something else. But I'll give an example of way in which my father's generation were very romantic, according to my mother. And I'm come from a very strong mother. My mother was very strong. So my mother was, I doubt, I was in their bedroom, but I wouldn't assume my mother was a kind of woman to just lay around and just be pushed over. My mother was very, very, very confident, and she said what she wanted. I've actually seen my mother engage in physical fight with other people. She didn't take nonsense. She was a no-nonsense woman. So anyway, so my mother and my father told me, like, during their time when they were growing up, a man who wanted to impress his wife would go and harvest yams for her, and she would tell him. He would go and tell my grandmother. Like, my grandfather would go and tell my grandmother, hey, I just picked up something very nice for you. Go to the particular part of the farm. You'll see a load there. And if it was yams, and my grandmother would immediately know, hey, those are yams there. And those are that's almost like a very romantic thing for you to do. So she'll go and pick up the yams. She'll prepare the yams in a very nice way, and they'll both enjoy the yams together. That makes both people feel happy, at least from what my grandmother would tell me, or the people who are my second mother would tell me. So there are these things that happen, that people that create their own standard of romance. Does it have to be that way? It doesn't always have to be that. We don't have yams there. I don't have yams to go to pick up for my girlfriend. So people adapt whatever way they want. But I can say more that buying flowers is not the standard of love. There are a lot of relationships in which people are buying flowers and they are falling apart. Those people didn't buy flowers, their relationship lasts long. So I'm just saying, so if my partner doesn't buy me flowers, then that's something we can negotiate. And I don't think that I should, simply because I take that standard, I should use it as a standard for everybody else, because we are all in different stages in this valley. Some people are coming from this valley, going to the other side of the valley. Some people are going back. We have a lot of cultural renaissance in Kenya right now. People who are going back to their traditional systems of spirituality and that kind of stuff. I just want to put that out as an anthropologist.
Yeah, but also too, I think it's very important to know what each person likes. Okay, whatever worked for your grandfather is not necessarily what would work for another grandfather, because every relationship is different, right? So, but in this generation, so let's talk about even this generation. I don't know if there's a woman anywhere that doesn't want to be treated nice. Not every woman cares for flowers. Some women actually prefer, just give me money, let me go buy myself what I want to buy for myself. And there's some women that want, just give me a plant, at least I will see the plant for some time. And there's some women that want, send me flowers, send me chocolate, things like that. Those are small things that just make a difference in life. It's sometimes it's even more romantic to have not him deliver the flowers, but send somebody to deliver flowers, like, hey baby, where are you? I'm at work, then they send you flowers. So every relationship is different. But Dembra, what were you gonna say?
Okay, this is what I was going to say. I think Kabui just, explained that as well in the second submission that he made, that relationship, there's no standard when it comes to showing love. There's nothing one person has to say, this is how you're supposed to show your love to your partner. There's nothing like that. And love, if you follow love definition, of the dictionary, you're going to get everything wrong. You're gonna even actually hurt yourself, okay? Because each and everyone has a different way of showing that love, right? And so for me personally, I came to this country, when I was, let's say, about 18 years or 19 years old, right? And so I've adapted to the system that American people have here. Oh, I watched a movie and this guy just brought in some chocolate, and I want to do the same thing to my to my wife or to my girlfriend or to my fiance, right? The problem is not about doing it. The problem here is about how long can you keep on doing it. If you start buying the flowers, at the beginning of the relationship, and it's so sweet, and now she's accustomed to those things, and after giving birth one time and twice, and now you kind of like, I don't have time to to do that. That is where the problem is. That is what causes domestic violence. And so for us, if we can maintain it, it is going to be okay. But if we can start something sweet, something flowery, and now in the middle of it, we can't give the same thing, then that is a big problem.
Okay.
I cook, by the way. I can say I cook. Cooking to me is the most romantic. Most women I cook for, I didn't have a problem with. Nobody asked me for flowers. I say, when is the next time you're cooking?
I mean, and that can be romance in its own way too. When you tell her, you know what, you've been cooking the whole week. Today, let me just sit down. You give her the remote, and tell her, I'm gonna cook. I'm gonna serve you. That's romance, and that does not mean that you're handpicked. It just means that you're right, Ken?
I agree. There are reasons, Brother Kabui said, and David, how are you gonna continue what you're doing? Are you gonna start something and then stop it? You gotta be able to find innovative ways to do things. My mom's name was Flora, and she loved flowers. And my dad would say, it was like she was the Neiman Marcus girl, and my dad was a Walmart boy. He's like, your mama, she just loves to see that flower truck pull up in the driveway. She's something about it. She just loves to see it. And so I started giving my mom flowers. And now that she's not here, I made a commitment. With a name like Flora, I'm going to make sure that I'm always doing something innovative for my girl. I mean, my wife. And, I sit and I think about ways to, send her one flower in the office, 1 minute apart for, 30 trips to let her know that, I thought about her for, 30 seconds. And each time it reminded me, those are the things that I think I'm a romanticist, but I'm also a man's man. Don't get me wrong. If you need somebody to protect you, and, I'm good with my verbiage. And so I'm very confident in the kind of person I am. But when it comes to the wife that I've not had, oh man, I mean, I plan on going and doing things that I've never even, seen done before. And that's just my role. That's the role that I play. I want to enhance upon the last time that I enhanced upon something until I get to a point. If I can't go any further, David, I'll just tell her, baby, I don't know if I can top that one. We might have to start back over again.
Yeah.
But again, I'm keeping it very real and realistic for her so that she understands it.
Yeah, I think it's a communication, right? It's communication. So if you start, you say, "Hey, honey, I'm giving you this. I don't know when that is going to whatever. Yeah. But if it fades off, please keep me in check, right? Please always help me. Let me kind of like innovate. If I don't give you flour and I give you something else, then accept that and let us keep innovating. Keep on changing it, because if we don't do that, that relationship is never going to last. Yeah. Or even if it's going to last, it's going to become a little bit kind of toxic. Like I said, domestic violence is not necessarily something huge that started. It's a little stuff like this. Yeah. If I don't offer you flowers anymore, then you become agitated, and then I say, oh, I just give it to you, but now you want me to be like everyday thing, and I cannot continue that. Then it becomes a problematic conflict in the house. Yeah. So, yeah.
Monica, let me add one last thing.
Yeah.
Again, even though I've thought about these types of things, here's the unrealistic part. I think about walking in the house and finding my baby at the sink washing dishes, which we know how often is that going to happen when you got dishwashers. Mm-hmm. If I ever find her washing dishes with her little, what do you call the little thing, the little apron on? Mm-hmm. How hard is that going to be to find a woman with an apron on? At least I look forward to walking in and wrapping my arms around her and greeting her and, scooting her over to the side and doing the dishes. Obviously, I have to make sure that, just because she's not going to have an apron on and she may not be washing them, I may not have to see it that way. I may have to alter some other method in order to do it. So that's just me as a man. That's where I'm at.
Okay, so let's talk about we're talking about romance, and the whole thing. All this is about marriage. So there are some women, and I know Caroline Beatty, you will agree with me because you're also an advocate against domestic violence. There's some women that are in marriages or in relationship, but they're so lonely in a relationship, and most of that loneliness, it probably even comes from that emotional satisfaction not being there, because emotional satisfaction is having that connection, and when it comes to intimacy, this woman decides, what, I'm just gonna lay there and do what you gotta do and just get the hell out. You know what I mean? It gets to that point. But, sometimes, some of these women, they want to still remain in the marriage, maybe for their children, maybe because they don't have money, they cannot support themselves, but, if they went out on their own, for whatever reasons. But how do we get to that point? And my question is, when we get to that point, why is a man comfortable with it? Why is a man comfortable with her not being a participant in an act that is supposed to be, it's sacred and it's for two people, and it's for two people to actually enjoy it, but why is it that, some men are just okay with it and life goes on? And I'm going to go with you, Kabue. You tell us, because you're going to go traditional.
Oh, yeah, by the way, I don't always go traditional. I think if there's anything else. By the way, most of the views I hold are outliers there, because I intellectually try to understand the culture and try to apply in a systematic way. So I'm not just traditional, I'm not just forward. I'm more practical about what, because there's a question I think I should mention here, that in all questions that we answer, what I always start with is, what is the end goal? What is the purpose of the relationship? Why do we have a relationship in the first place? If making each other happy is not part of the relationship, then we shouldn't be having a discussion about being happy is not part of the discussion. We didn't, that wasn't part of the contract, you know? So if making sure that we are romantic or we are fair to each other and we support, all that start with where are we going? What was the purpose of us getting together? So so back to the question. I remember the question. I gave the introduction and almost lost the question again. Please, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm talking about women that are in a relationship but are still very lonely in the relationship because, again, you know, there's no emotional satisfaction. But why is it that a man feels so comfortable to go on with intimacy and a woman is not a participant of this intimacy? Why does a man feel comfortable to just go on with it?
Yes, very good question. Number one, men seem to accept a relationship that is not working. At least not always, but more often. Men try to do as much as they can. The men that are committed to a relationship. So they'll do, because traditionally men are the holders of power, you know, so, you know, you get married, a woman leaves from her family, they go to the man's family, okay? So the men are the holders of power in that sense, right? Because we come from matrilineal, at least in our culture, it's patrilineal cultures. So for a man to break a relationship is very damaging to the man. It's very damaging to the man. In materially, people can say, okay, the woman will have to go back and all that stuff, you know. But I'm saying just only in terms of power and the psychological part of it, because a man feels very successful when his family is doing well. So a man is less likely to break a relationship that he can maintain in that sense. So hey, if the woman is not responding, or as you say, or these are the issues, men are very likely to just go along with it, because women are verbal. Women talk about domestic violence, but there is also domestic violence against men. But men are less likely to talk about it for cultural reasons. You know, it'll make a man look very bad to go and tell other family, other friends, oh, my wife is abusing me, or the wife is. So the men are less likely to talk about it. So for that reason, men are likely to go along with certain things that are not, we might view as not correct in normal circumstances.
Okay, all right. So I want to move on really quickly here. So Jambre,
yes,
can you contribute to that and also tell us too? Why is it a man is when he is told no, why does he not accept that it's a no? African men, especially.
Okay. That's a very good question. No is a no and yes is a yes.
Yes.
But in an African setting, no is actually a yes, because when I was growing up, my brothers and, sisters, they would group us, under the moon, and they would tell us, look, if you are chasing a girl and a girl says no, it means she's actually trying to tell you yes. So persuasion, all right? So you have to persuade the person until the person, agrees to. Now, when it comes to relationship, when the woman says no, you have to read the cues. You have to understand certain things. Why does she say no? Is it because she feels like she cannot do it? Or maybe she's just refusing you to have access to what the man thinks that they own or they're entitled to have, or she's why? What is her reason why she doesn't want to give it to you? Now, if you look at it, and if it's something that is continuous, then the man will have to step in and say, you know what? No, this. We married because we agreed that this and this and this, and once we marry, I am entitled to have access to you. And if you don't give me the access, then it means something different, or you're trying to give me a certain cues that is not part of what I bargained for, right? And then they began to think that the no is no longer no. I am going to take it by force, whether you like it or not, because I married you from your parents, and your parents say now you belong to me, and that's what it is. That is how some men think, and I'm not saying every man. That's how some men think, and so that is why the no becomes yes. But when it comes to the Western kind of style, you have to be very careful when the woman says no, and it means no.
Yeah. So how does it work out in the American culture, Ken?
It pretty much, from what I understand, it's pretty much kind of the same way, I think. But we have laws here that make you understand that when no is no, you better accept no. And but there are still relationships that are toxic like that, where the guy thinks that, no means yes. I personally have never, put myself in a position where I've had to be told no, and that's simply because I know the person that I'm involved with. I'm gonna make a realization to a lot of people today, but I've been celibate for a while by choice. There are times that I say no simply because that's not the right person for me to give up my newfound virginity to, and plus I had somebody ended up having to go to court with because she stalked me. So I think a no is a no in a lot of ways. And, I kept telling someone, no, I'm done with that. We talked about it firsthand. We're going to do this one time. I thought I was being the man thing, David, we're going to talk about it. And are you sure you want to do this? Because you've been talking about this for a while. And so if you want to do it, let's do it one time. Let's walk away. Monica, it didn't work like that. I came home one day and she was in my house, in my bed, in my clothing, and I don't even know how she got in the house. So you just have to be careful with the individuals that you're getting involved with. And like I say, a cultural thing, I can't speak to that for my brothers, but for here, I don't really know someone in my friendship circle that has done that. I knew of a girl that, her husband was acclaimed to have done it, but she loved the heck out of him. And I had some friends ask me, why does he not do this? And why does he not do that? And why is he so quick? And I'm like, it's because he doesn't love you. If he loved you, he would take you into consideration. So culturally, a no is a no here because the law will make sure that if you don't handle it that way, they'll make sure that they handle it.
Okay, so I want to ask you guys one last question, and then we can end this. So again, we're looking at cultural differences here, as we navigate these issues. Okay, so I have a friend that talks to women, they would have women meetings, and women learn a few things here and there. And so I want to kind of show a difference of an African man and an American man here, okay? Because we're here to learn from one another. So when it comes to to a Kenyan man, to an African man, so that woman that went to to a meeting and learned, how to have sex differently, new styles, something like that. She comes home and she tries that with her husband. She's probably going to get a beating, or it's probably going to be insult or something. You're a prostitute now. Like, where did you learn from, that from, and stuff like that. It just becomes a problem, when in an American culture, the man is going to be happy, all right, like you learned something new, like let's explore, they love to explore, and so there becomes a problem. And this act is supposed to be an act that like people have fun with, and people, it's making love. It's making love, so again, let's go back to you, Kabwe. Can you talk about, these cultural differences? Why is it that an African man, actually, I'm not even talking about traditionally, I'm talking about even men nowadays, men that are young. When an African woman says, I love sex, it is a problem. An American man is like, yes, I like that. You know what I mean? But African men, they snare at that, of a woman that says that she loves sex. Why is that such a big problem for a woman to love sex?
That's actually probably one of the simplest questions you've asked me. That's very simple. At least in my understanding, culturally in Kenya and the region where I'm from, it has a lot to do with the influence of Western religion or foreign religion on our culture. My grandmother, actually my older mother, I call her my grandmother because in my culture, the wives of your dad's brothers are your mothers because all your dad's brothers are your fathers. I know, Monica, you know that. So that's what my oldest mother in my family, which was old enough to be my grandmother, she blew me off my feet when she told me, after I went to graduate school and I studied anthropology, I became really curious to ask a lot of questions. Something we don't do. We don't document some of this old history. And this comes perfectly in line with the question you're asking. Because we take a lot of African cultures as African, and they're not African. They are influenced by Western religion that became a dominant cultural factor to what we call modern Africa now. When the new states of Africa were built following our colonization. Part of our colonization was our culture. So my grandmother blew me off my feet when she told me that when they were young, when they were young girls, it was perfectly acceptable for them to go together with their friends to, let's say, example, and I don't want to use Ken because Ken seems to be like a nice guy. He's very good with his hands, right? So in the guy who had that kind of reputation, right? Again, I'm just joking. Yes, right? So the guy who had that kind of reputation, the girls will get together. They would go to Ken's house. They will go. It's nothing secret. They'll go to the family. They'll say hello to the family. And then they'll walk over to his side hut, where he lived, and they say, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, we just came to visit you." And they'll sit down and they'll talk, and then finally say, "Hey, look, we came here to have what it's called in our culture." That's a talk for another day if you want us to have a discussion about that. It's called restricted sex. There was no penetration, but it was so, and they would all do it in a group. So the one lady would start first, then the next one, the other lady would say, "You're taking too long. It's time. Your time is out. Get out." And they'll do the next one. So it has changed the way I think about a lot of stuff. So I realized that a lot of these issues that we're dealing with are coming up as a result of our inhibitions because of these ultra conservative religious tradition that was imposed on Africans. So Africans did not evolve naturally. So they have a lot of inhibitions that are not ours. They're not cultural. They are actually as a result of our domination by other culture. So my grandmother, she told me, this guy, she was almost ashamed. I had to tell her, man, grandma, I'm writing this. If I don't write this, we'll never know about this. Even her, because of religion now, she was finding that practices kind of to be something to be ashamed of, right? But it's not something to be ashamed of. These people were free sexually. They would explore, and the people knew. Everybody would be known. So you didn't have to guess how somebody was before you marry them. Like people. If somebody tried to penetrate a lady, then all the ladies will tell. They'll tell on you, and nobody will ever want to date you because you are not an honorable person who keeps to their word. And it was all there in public, and all these words will get around. So that's why that's the reason. That's probably the story that I like to share about why some of those things would happen.
Okay, so Ken, talk about those differences, because an American man is going to be so happy that a woman has learned something new, and he's going to want to explore what she has learned before we get to Dambre, so he can start telling us, I don't have time to hold you.
Yes.
Of course, in America, there's a lot of swinging going on where, people are doing some of everything, you'd be surprised, David, right? They're doing some of everything, but, so I don't know if it culturally, I think that, let me speak on my own behalf. Mm-hmm. If I had a wife who came home and was showing me all different kinds of moves, I just have to just say, baby, what's going on? Where are you getting this from? Is that okay for me to ask that question? I just kind of be a little curious, but by the same token, now, since I'm single and I'm praying every day for my wife, the first thing I told the Lord was this: she got to have some making up to do. Okay. She can't have thyroid problems that drive her sex drive down. She's going to have some making up, because I need every day. We're going to I want to go to the well a couple of times a day. So I'm going to start a new culture, brothers, over here when I get mine. But right now, I'm without all of that. I don't have the intimacy, and I see, people as it gets colder here, holding hands, and I long for it. But I think for most men here in America, as long as it's not something that's too far out there, they typically won't question it. They'll enjoy it. But if there's something that's too far out there, because there are a lot of women here, American women, who tend to steer their men into other areas that they've not thought about going into. The guy's been a little bit more conservative, but the lady is saying, hey, let's ramp this up a little bit and let's go here and there. And I know, because my friends talk to me about that. And they tend to accept that very openly until it, goes over the top with them. And then they want to come back down in the valley that my brother Kabui was talking about, So I don't know. It's kind of a give and take thing. I want to be, you want to be able to trust your wife or your girlfriend, whoever she is, and know that whatever is best for the both of you, you figure it out together. Okay. I don't need to be jumping from the trampoline and all of that other stuff unless she needs me to, because I keep telling her, if you just let me take you where you hadn't been, you won't need all that other stuff.
My grandfather, Kabui, my grandfather had 2 wives, but the second wife, my grandfather did not go out to look for her. It was my grandmother, who's my mom's mom. She was like, I've had it. He's too much. She is the one that went out and brought a younger woman for my grandfather.
Same thing, by the way. Same thing with my grandfather. My grandmother went and married. My grandmother actually paid for my dad's second wife. My grandmother paid for the second wife for my grandfather.
Yeah,
so she was a traitor.
My grandmother is the one that brought a woman home, and she was like, you know what, you can have her. She's younger. She can handle it. So every time we went back to see my grandparents, my mom would be like, okay, what was the name of this one? Because it's the little kids. My grandmother is already married, has us, so there's there are these children that are much younger than all of us, that my mom is just like, I don't even remember her name. Who was this one? Because every time we go back, there's a new baby. I just wanted to say that. But Dambre, I'm going to go to your point then.
Okay. So talking about sexual realization, there was a study from Harvard University back in 2015. The study basically focused on women from Africa. And when they come from Africa to America, what happened, and the divorce rate and everything, right? What the study revealed was that the majority of breakups or divorces in the United States was about sex realization, right? So the women actually got out and possibly learn from their other, friends and other women. And so when they came back home, they wanted to practice it with their husbands, and the husband kind of like, wait a minute, where did they come from, right? So if you want to do something like this, I think that's where we talk about communication. If you want to go learn about new stuff, let your husband know about what you want to do. And when you come back and you practice it on him, he will be fine with it. But if it's like out of the blue, now you kind of like moaning and grabbing and jumping, and he'll be like, wait a minute. No, where's that come from, right? He's going to get defensive a little bit. But let's drill to where Kabui was talking about religion, right? We've seen so many pastors preach about sex. And this is about Christian women. This has nothing to do about people who don't believe in God. This has everything to do with Christian women. You know, they don't want to kind of like, practice anything new, or the husband don't want them to practice something that's like, that's evil way of doing sex. I just want you to come, lay down, I crucify you, I do what I need to do, and then we pray to God, and that's it, right? So when that Christian woman gets out of that religion a little bit and learn all these things and trying to practice with the husband, then it becomes breakup or it becomes a divorce. So I think in churches nowadays, they need to teach women and men alike. Say, hey, look, sex is not about men pushing the woman down and crucify her and then do whatever they need to do. As I said in the beginning of this conversation, look, women want you to hold her for like maybe 10 minutes after the sex. Yeah. Right? Hold her. Kiss her. I mean, just cuddle and then hold her for 10 minutes. Don't do anything. Just lay down in that bed. Because I know how we men are. When I have sex and once I'm done my part, I just want to run out of that room or that bed and then go somewhere. I don't want to touch you and I don't want to do anything, right? So, but you have to think about the woman's need as well. This is what she wants. Okay. Compromise. The word compromise was trying to come to mind. Is compromise, okay? Be with her, understand what she needs, and then that is going to take care of, the whole thing. Because I don't think that, having a sexual revelation or sexual awareness becomes something that, both of you have to, be fighting over it. Just tell the husband, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is what I learned. I want to practice it with you. Are you okay with that? If you're not okay. What is next? Right. So Monica, I really like this part of question that you asked. I hope Christians are watching that. Christian men, they need to allow their wives to do what they're supposed to do because they're married now. They have the certificate. Even if they want a blowjob, give them the blowjob. If they want whatever, give them, because you are married. You are entitled to any sexual positions, doggy style, mercenaries, whatever it is in that marriage. That is what is going to keep your marriage alive. Do it.
Awesome.
Preach, brother. Preach.
I have something to add because I'm a father too, and I know probably my daughter is watching, and we are also. Oh, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I have a daughter. I have two of them. I have one might be old enough; she might be watching. So I say, so I believe in, or the level at which I am in my evolution or in the valley, I believe in equality. That I raise my daughters as well as my son to be equal partners in a relationship. That means that if it's something that you feel is demeaning to you, don't do it. Simply tell somebody, if you really care enough about me, that's something that I'm very uncomfortable with. I don't want to do it. If my son said, "Hey, look, this is, I understand. If you respect me," I ask everybody, all my children as well, and I would recommend that to have irreducible minimum. There are things that I'm not comfortable doing. It might be for environmental reasons. For example, I can give you a quick example, and I'm done. I don't like flowers myself. Don't bring flowers to my funeral. Don't buy any flowers for me at all, at all, at all. Never buy me flowers. That's me. Why? Because the way the flowers, I don't support the flower industry. The flower industry pollutes the rivers in Naivasha where they are grown in Kenya. They abuse their workers. So it's not an industry I'm willing to support. So you could think you're doing very good to me by giving me flowers. So, and that's how I raise my kids. So most likely, I won't be surprised if my kids say we don't want flowers because we care about the environment or whatever. So for people out there, please, or for men, if a woman tells you I'm uncomfortable with this, if you care about that person and you want that person to be comfy, don't ask them to do it. That's it. Unless it's something so important to you that it's absolute, I'll die. If you don't give me a blowjob, I'll die. Okay, so if you say I can live with it, that's not something important to me. So I say, hey man, if my daughter tells me somebody is telling me that I should do this, I gotta do this, or you're in the wrong relationship. Thank you.
No, I don't. My brother, I don't think it's about a do and die kind of life and death kind of situation, you know. But I believe that if you, the woman, you discovered something new, have that discussion with your husband.
Oh
right?
yes,
that's
by all means. By all means. Oh, no, I'm not. By the way, my friend, I'm not David. I'm not disputing that. I'm only saying that. Yeah, I agree. There are so many things I do that nobody else probably would do, right? That's fine. That's between me and whatever. But if somebody is uncomfortable, that's the only thing I wanted to add to your wonderful idea. That if somebody is uncomfortable and the wife is telling David, man, look, this is look. He said this is my reducible minimum. Please, if you care about me, you know, because I'm from Togo or because I'm from this or because I'm just, I don't want, if you don't mind. That's all.
Maybe he doesn't know what he's missing, because sometimes we may feel uncomfortable doing something, but when we try it, it becomes something that we ever like. So, for instance, you know, when I came to America, when I came to America, I didn't like eating pizza because pizza was something that I was like, no way, I'm not gonna eat it. But guess what? The day that I tasted it, guess what? I eat pizza. I can eat pizza the whole day, the whole month, or the whole year, and still be okay with it. Because sometimes it is the things that we put in our minds that, oh no, this I would never do this. I'm not going to do this. This is not something that I have to try, and that is what blocks us from, you know, trying something new. Trying something, you know, be creative. Sex is a creativity, because if you don't get creative, you're not gonna enjoy what you need, because sex is, there's no formula for it. You got to try, you got to touch everywhere in order to find out what makes your husband happy, what makes your wife happy. Because if you don't get creative, you're not gonna. Some people use their fingers. I know that some people use their fingers. Some people use their sticks. Some people use whatever. So whatever works best for you, you got to try it. If you don't try it, you're not gonna find out what works best for you. And you're probably going to think this is not uncomfortable. This is an uncomfortable thing to do, but it's not uncomfortable. You just need to try it. Open up your mind and then try it. If you don't like it, then you say, hey, honey, I tried it. I didn't like it, period. Let's move on.
Ken, what do you think about intimacy and creativity?
Oh, Monica, you just had to go there with me, didn't you? I think these guys did a great job breaking this down and putting it out there from a cultural standpoint as well as from a practicality standpoint. You know, the thing about love is love can teach you to be accepting of things that you probably would not have been accepting of, things that you said you'd never do, but you may try just for the sake of the loved one, like David said. And sure enough, there were things that, you know, I discussed with some of my friends I never was going to try. And, but of course, after I had a great way of communicating with my partner, I said, well, if I become good at it and it becomes pleasant to you and and it's something you feel like you want, then so be it, because I want to see you happy. But now I will tell you, I had a partner I met, we went to Las Vegas, and soon after I met her, she got me in Las Vegas, and she said, was there anything you want to do that you hadn't done before? Like have sex in a theater or on the ocean. I'm like, well, there are no oceans in Las Vegas, so that's out. Um, and where are you coming from with this? Because we just met each other, a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And she lost me on that one because, David, I thought she was setting me up for the okie doke, trying to see if I was willing to go somewhere that I wasn't planning on going. And I just told her, I said, look, I don't think this is the right time to discuss this. You should have had this conversation with me before we got on the plane. Mm-hmm. What are your issues? What are you thinking about? Because I'm trying to figure out why you're asking me this. And but needless to say, the communication is a key aspect. Be willing to explore for the sake of your partner. Mm-hmm. I think that's an important opportunity. It's not just an important find, but it's a great opportunity. If your partner is willing to explore and you communicate back and forth with them, there's some things that I just don't think I would ever want to do, but gosh, who knows? I might change my mind. It might be like pizza, David. I might change my mind. But right now, I think that, if you want to, with my repertoire, you want to put it in your repertoire, and use it with your partner, do it in the safest and most, sanctified way, like Brother Kabui was saying, so that it doesn't make them feel uncomfortable or feel like it's outside of the scope of what they want to do. So again, it's about that communication and how you express it with each other.
All right. I think that would
be good, Monica.
And can you hear me? I see Maggie, she says, very good open conversation. I hope many African men will listen to this. So, and then I have somebody that actually sent me a message and said, does that American man have a phone number? I was like, it's on there. So just so you know, somebody sent me a message and they were asking. But I think people have enjoyed this conversation, really. I think this is the most open conversation we've ever had on Facebook. And I sure do hope that men out there have learned something. To explore is nothing wrong to explore. To your point, Ken, you are already intimate with her, so I don't know why to explore would have been bad. It would have been okay.
Yeah.
But I want to let you guys go because we started late and I've kept you here for so long, but it was a really, really good conversation, and I can't thank you enough for giving me part of your Saturday, sharing your Saturday with me. So how about we will still have this conversation again another time.
Definitely. Hey, before we go again, just like I began, you have taken this upon yourself. It is something that I want to do a research on. Since the last time we spoke, I really want to dig into it to see what are the things that actually cause other people to get so bitter, into treating to the level, to the extent that they want to kill the person they loved so much before, and all of a sudden the beast comes out of him or her, and all that thing. So I want to be able to understand that part of it, and I just want to say thank you for giving us the platform to do so. And this month be the awareness month. I hope my prayer is, if we haven't learned anything at all out of this, domestic violence in any form is bad, is wrong. It is not supposed to be something that we need to even talk about it. It is not something that we need to practice. It's not good for our lives. It's not good for humanity. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what?
Monica, I just want to simply say this. I agree. No man should be hitting on you in any particular way. It's not a joke. It's not something that's a test of your strength. No man should hit you, bottom line. And no man should hit you with his verbal ways of also keeping you down. If that is happening, as David said earlier, we men know, Brother Kabui, we all know that that's not good for a relationship, and you should not accept that. You should walk away from it.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you for letting me be with these panel of brothers today. It's been an honor, and I'm humbled by it. And I hope that we can do this again, Monica.
You know what? Do you guys mind? I forgot to ask you one very important question. Can I?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So and this goes with what you just said, Ken. So we haven't explored. Sometimes, a man that is really nice, treats, his woman well, and everything. There are some women, because of the African culture, we expect that man to be, strong and, not doing the, like washing dishes, things like that. And when they do that, we tend to think that, that's a sign of weakness. Okay. So if a man hates a woman, it's never okay for the man to hit that woman back. But how does he respond? I think it's very important that we address that.
Okay. I had an instance in my relationship. I had a young lady who, when President Obama was elected for president, and we were, she was out doing all of the work for him. She graduated #1 McComb School of Business at UT Austin. And she was formidable in the community. And when I decided that it was best for her and I to break up because of some things that I found, she didn't like it. And I'll never forget her putting her finger on my nose, and I'm asking her, hey, you really are trying to push me, right? I said, you need to take your finger off my nose. But brothers, I asked her 3 times. And so she was on the phone with the police, and I said, that's a good idea. They need to be here because I'm going to, ask you to pack your stuff and leave my house tonight. There was nothing that made me want to hit her. Let me be careful. Let me make sure that you understand that, because I loved her. Love will not allow you to do something that is going to permanently hurt someone. Okay. I loved her. We were done, but there was no way I would have raised my fist to her, or would I have, responded that way. And when the police officers got there in Allen, Texas, mind you, there's only a few of us in Allen, Texas. He says, well, Mr. Cobb, she's been outside crying for 20 minutes and we haven't seen a tear come out of her eye. And he said, if I were you, I would have slapped her when she put her fingers on your nose, because she admitted it. And I said, well, officer, let me tell you something. She's a woman of color. And my mom was too. And there's no way I'm going to ever allow myself to get to that point where I would ever put my hand on her, no matter how we disagree. So thank you for your opportunity, but no, thank you. So no, you should never put your hand on anyone to hurt them. And if they are, then ladies, you got to get out of that. You got to get out of it, and you got to stay out of it. You can't go down the street and then come back. You got to get out of it, and you got to stay out of it, because that is the first step. And again, we keep talking about men. They're not men, they're boys. That's the first step for a boy to think that he can continue to put his hands on you. So I admonish you to really listen to what the 3 men today have said to you regarding that domestic violence. Get out of that and walk away from it and never go back to it.
Okay. Let me add something to that. I think some women go overboard, right? The fact that you have the right to, both of you are together, physicality, the person is stronger than you. That no doubt about it. Okay. Do not slap your husband. Do not hit your husband. If you hit your husband, the reaction is going to be very bad. That is the key thing. That is there's no way out here that you're going to hit somebody and that person is not going to respond. Okay, so do not hit somebody. Now, the guy, if your wife hits you, look at the whole thing. Look at the whole picture. Just look at her face, right? Sometimes women will drive us to the edge whereby we can no longer hold our emotions or we can no hold back, right? But you look at her standing in front of you, the only thing she could do is to do what she just did. There's nothing she can do to you. If you want to hit her, you're going to kill her. If you want to do, you're going to do this. So just walk away. Walk away and don't talk about it. If she's a woman that reasons, she's going to apologize for hitting, even if she's right. She's going to apologize for hitting you because she knows definitely when you hit her, things are going to happen, right? So women, please do not hit your husband, right? Think about it. Mm-hmm. And what drives us crazy is the fact that women, they will try to, push all the buttons. When you walk out, they say, why did you walk out? When you talk, it's why did you talk? When you hit them, why did you hit me? And if you don't say anything, why you keep quiet? So basically, we are left in the middle of it. We don't even know how to respond or how to react to situations like this. And I think it is very critical that we begin to talk to women. Do not hit me, and I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to walk away and stay there forever. And cool myself off and come back home. And if you want to talk about it, peacefully, let's do it.
That's double standards, because Ken said, if a man is hitting you, walk away from that relationship. So it shouldn't be any different. When a woman is hitting that man, even that man deserves to walk away from that relationship. It's not worth it. Wouldn't you say?
No, look, again, it's not a double standard here. When a man abuses you to some extent, it is okay to walk out.
That's how it starts.
Right. It's an abuse. No, sometimes, okay. Again. I think
and then escalate to, something else.
Right. Sometimes women, they don't have that enough strength to do, to cause that much harm to you as a man, right? Yes, it goes emotional abuse, part of it. But you just have to look at sometimes what happened, what you did to her that she hit you. Have you done something stupid that she hit you? That you don't have to walk away because you made a mistake, right? You made a mistake and she slapped you. Yes, it is understandable that she's not supposed to slap you, but come on, she doesn't have any. We've seen this time to time that a woman hitting you doesn't mean that she really hates you or she really want you to leave. It may, high school kind of thing. When a woman hits you, actually, we translate it to be she loves you, right? That kind of thing. But I think in the marriage, when they hit you, it might have been something that you've done something really serious. That's why they hit you. But I don't think a woman will really hit you for no reason.
Do you? They actually end up even killing men. So do you agree with that, Kabui?
Oh yes, that's one thing I don't agree with. As I said, I have daughters, and I told my daughter, if you hit somebody else, don't call me. Exactly. Why are you hitting somebody else?
Yeah.
And if you don't think it's bad for somebody else to hit you, don't hit them.
Yeah.
That's a relationship. You set the precedent for a relationship. If me and you get into a relationship, you say, you know what? If we have a disagreement, disagreements are always bound to happen.
Right.
If they do happen, we have to come into a resolution, into an agreement. We are going to resolve this. If we think we are becoming hard-headed to say, look, let's flip this thing over. Instead of just arguing back and forth, fighting, that's not going to hit anything. But I think it's a double standard that actually have jeopardized a lot of men and put a lot of men in risk, because men are viewed as though we are these emotional giants that we can put up with a lot of stuff and we should put up with. I say, I don't put up with nothing. It's not my, if you treat me the exact same way you want me to treat you, because that's how the American law is. We live in the law. If I'm going to go to jail and you're going to call the police because I hit you, then you deserve to go to the police if you hit me. But if you think that hitting is good enough for somebody else, then it's good enough for you. Violence is not in a relation, is not going to build in a relationship. Yeah, I know when we were young, or in another culture, but especially in America, no. If you're going to live if you want to go and fight, go somewhere else and fight over there. But if you're going to in America, I have equal rights to enjoy all the benefits that America offers me, regardless of my sex. If America has laws in place to protect me from being abused physically, so do you, and so do I. That's my position in that. I have girls, I have boys, and I tell them you're equal. That's why I said what I said earlier. And by the way, maybe it's just a good point that I just emphasized. I say simply because I don't have any problem with people doing whatever they decide to try. The only thing I fight for is for somebody's right to say no. I have a right to say I don't want to try this, and I have a right to say don't hit me. If you don't want to be hit, then don't hit me. But don't tell me I'm being bad when I hit you and you're hitting me. That won't work, and that doesn't make for a good relationship in a nutshell.
So even when a woman is hitting a man, that man needs to walk away from it.
They need to walk away. If somebody hit me, then why are you hitting me? Yes, why are you hitting me? Yeah, is this not something that we could have talked about? No, but also finally, but in saying that, let me also recognize that there is something that we are in big need of, especially in African. Most cultures, or some other cultures that have been quite successful, our cultures have mediation options for issues that they have. And that's why I go back to what I said, a man has to have other men and women has to have other women to make them whole. Because if there are disagreements and we don't have any other recourse, I don't particularly think that the legal system we have in America is the best to solve some of our cultural problems that we have. If I call other Kenyan men who understand our culture, they can say, look, this is how we're going to resolve this. You're going to pay 3 goats to this woman for either your verbal abuse, and that just makes us a better people. Okay? Let me just leave it
there. Hey, Monica.
We got it. Okay.
Today, your very first question was about respect for men. What is the one thing that a woman can do to show disrespect for a man? We talked, all of the brothers agreed that it would be talking about a man in a way that was insensitive. Very close to that one would be the desire for a woman to hit you. Because basically what it does is it sends you a very clear message that she has demeaned you. She's belittled you. She no longer has a respect for you. And that puts you in a position where it's very difficult to continue to make a positive out of a negative. It's very difficult. I'm 6'5", and I had this little bitty lady decide to put her finger on my nose, and then I had to recognize what she was doing. She worked out every day with Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia, but I knew that she was trying to put me in a place where she was going to make me respond negatively, and it didn't happen. I wasn't falling for the okie doke. So my best thing that I could do was to get clean away from her and stay away from her. So don't hit the person that you claim to love.
All right. I think that's what it was. I appreciate you guys so very much. So I think we will continue this conversation again another time. So this has been great. It has been really, really wonderful. I see Danu, she says she learned a lot today. Thank you for bringing these wonderful men to today's show, Monica. Please bring them back again. So someone is saying there that you guys need to come back again. So I will look for another topic for us to discuss, and we can dive into it. So you guys have a very, very blessed weekend. And Ken, I'm hoping that somebody's gonna call you. And you will find love, But anyway, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Nice being on the panel with I learned a lot from these brilliant men. And look forward to catching up with them again.
Thank you, brother.
Definitely.
All right then.
Thanks.